Good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing today? I am so excited to see you guys. And with me, I have the very, very talented AR creator, Jonathan.
All right, how's it going?
Let's see. Oh my gosh, so many people in the chat already. I see our regular Haley Capaz, official Rob. Bruno says hello from Brazil. Chris is asking where you can download Effect House. We can cover that in a bit. Miguel says hello there with two hands up emoji. I see Bree Anderson. Hey guys, with a heart emoji. Hi. Oh, Dev Seb is here. So nice to see you guys. Today, Jonathan will be covering how he created his super awesome supermarket effect. I personally had lots of fun playing around with this and feeling like I'm at a cashier at Bonds or Trader Joe's. So it was such a fun experience. Damon also says hello. And if you just arrived, we have a poll going on right now. What do you usually get at supermarkets? We already have 19 votes, with number one being bananas at 53%. Surprisingly, you guys don't like spam in Korea. Spam is like very, very popular. So I thought it would be more famous, but apparently, after talking to a couple of my American born friends, they're like, no, spam is not good. So I'm disheartened. But I also see some people want ramen noodles, milk. But if you have any other ideas about what you usually like to get at supermarkets, put it in the comment section so we can read it out loud. Ooh, I think Carol is in the TikTok section. Hi, Carol. She is saying we always get milk in a bag. What? Milk
What?
in a bag?
I've not seen
Jonathan.
milk in a bag. I gotta search that up. Milk in a bag.
Bruno says always chocolate. Yes. Matthew says ate spam yesterday. I know, it's so good. Oh, I see Fran. Fran says hello with hands emoji and then ramen for the win. So thank you so much for being here. Bread, yes, that's a essential. For me on the weekends, I just went camping, so I got a lot of sandwich material. I got bread, I got ham, I got cheese, lettuce, and some really awesome chipotle aioli, and that was really good. Canadians drink a lot of milk from a bag. Debseb is saying, yeah, I know, it's weird. So it wasn't from me, it was Debseb. Clear my name. Alice says radishes. Mike Blackhat, hello. Haley says, I love spam, but milk is better. Oat milk. Oh, yeah. I know we've had a huge oat milk craze. Chris, okay. Effect House is a program which you can download on your computer to create an effect, and you can do so by going to searching Effect House download in the comment section. But if you wanted to create an effect in your phone, you can go to your TikTok app, and on the tabs there should be a tab called create, and from there you should be able to create your effects on your phone as well. So that is one way you can try out creating effects on your phone.
I'm seeing
Okay.
radishes in the chat as well. Someone likes radishes.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Jonathan, can you give us a little intro about yourself?
Sure. So yeah, I'm Jonathan. I'm an AR creator. My job is technically creative technologist, and I do that with a bunch of different brands, making them stuff. And as a kind of introduction, I sort of sit somewhere between like developers and engineers and data scientists and creatives. But then I am also a developer myself, so I sort of sit somewhere between, and that kind of sums up also my sort of personal kind of stuff, which is just kind of playing between the two, being like quite creative developer, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, he covers all the grounds from data scientist to designer to actually being a developer. It is insane. I know you, based on your website that I saw, that you've also worked with accessible technology.
Yeah, that's one of sort of key passions of mine. I really, it matters a lot to me that experiences that we make are accessible and that lots of people can enjoy them. And right now, a lot of the web and a lot of apps that we use, a lot of physical spaces aren't. So that's certainly one of the focuses that I have. And so actually my sort of AR journey kind of started around that when I was experimenting with eye tracking to see if we could use
Oh,
people's cameras on their
interesting.
phones to make
Yeah.
like app control just using your eyes and a smartphone camera. And then I was like, found AR and I found it was really relaxing to make stuff in. And yeah.
Wow, that's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I really think we should provide a lot of accessibility features so that people can experience all of the wonders that we're experiencing every day. But you said that's how you got started in AR generally. How did you start creating for TikTok or making a TikTok effect?
Oh, when did it start? Well, I think that Effect House had just come out into like alpha or beta, and
Mm-mm.
like some people, I think there was like a sign up list to sort of like try it out. I was like, oh, brilliant! I definitely got to try that out. I'd say one of the best communities ever, certainly that I'm involved in online, is the AR community, and there's no gatekeeping I found in these communities. It's been brilliant, and so like a bunch of people going, hey, you got to check this out. It's so cool. So I went out, signed up, got access. I was like, oh,
Uh-huh.
this is brilliant. I love the way this is all laid out. And at the
Mm.
beginning days, there were like so few nodes, and it just like basically everything was controlled by, I think, like just using the time node. So anyone who's listening is just like tells you what the time is or how long it's been since the effect.
Ooh, yeah, yeah.
And so we were doing everything that, and so like I think some, was it Eddie made a really cool effect where there's like planets going around your head and stuff like that, and I was getting really exciting. So that's kind of when I started, and then I guess because it's sort of my passion, and I began making much more effects. Then also started saying, "Hey, brands, you should start making effects too," and then we started on that side as well. But yeah, that's kind of where it started, I think.
That's really fun. Okay. I love that the AR community is so sharing and there's no gatekeeping. So you as a full-time creative technologist, how does your work begin? Like do brands usually approach you or do you approach brands?
So I'm quite lucky in a way that we have a bunch of brands that we work for. So that we create a lot of stuff for them and across a huge spectrum. And so often we're quite proactive and we'll say, we think a really great way to do this campaign you want to do. So they might say, hey, we want to sell more of this thing, or we've got this great idea, or we've got this new product that we're bringing out. And they might say, we want, some social campaigns. We want to get some influencers involved. We want to get creators involved on TikTok. And then we might said, maybe a year ago, we would have said, you should also do an effect and make a game out of it, or make
Uh-huh.
something that gets people involved. And nowadays, they're coming to us saying, hey, we want an effect. And it's
Oh,
like part of the strategy, which is really cool.
uh-huh.
So that's kind of how it works. And then on the side, like sometimes charities or like even just other creators who want to make stuff will like approach me and say, I really like what you did there. Could I make a version of it? Or could we make a version for our brand or something? And if I have time, I will do that. And yeah, just
Hmm.
really, really fun. And so there's kind of like two streams.
Okay, that's great. I think this is another thing that I'm also hearing with other creators as well. When you have built up like a portfolio of good effects, brands kind of discover you through those effects or through some recommendation, and they ask you to come create an effect for them. So if there is anyone who wants to be a creative technologist or a full-time AR creator, make sure to build up a good list of portfolio effects that you can show to brands and you might get discovered that way and start your career that way.
Definitely. I think my number one bit of advice actually to especially technologists, creatives, and AR creators is just make stuff. It doesn't matter necessarily at the beginning if it's good. It doesn't matter if it goes viral or anything like that. And actually, I landed the job I've got now because I had just a ton of stuff that I'd made that was interactive. It wasn't just ideas. It was a bunch of stuff people could like try out. And I had
Uh-huh.
it all on a table in this weird old
Uh-huh.
gallery somewhere in East London, I think it was. And you
Wow.
try out all of the effects.
Uh-huh.
And people were like, oh, this is so cool. We want you to come and make effects for us and make like AR experiences and stuff for us. This is what we want. I hadn't gone viral. In fact, I think at that time, there weren't really any major AR platforms out.
Mm-mm.
So I didn't really have that chance to go like big time viral in the same ways that you can now. It's really cool. But people just liked giving it a go, and really cool thing about AR effects is that you can make stuff that people can just try on their own phones with a QR code,
Yeah.
and you can
Uh-huh.
send that to friends, and you can whack that on any social networks you use. And I think that's pretty cool, right? That's the best type of portfolio. My favorite type is when people just send me effects they've made. Definitely.
I 100% agree. Right now, TikTok allows you to go viral, but it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to go, as Jonathan mentioned, to get a full time career or start a new project that way. It can, for me also, now I'm working at TikTok, but before I started working at TikTok, as you guys know, I was also a random creator and I was producing effects just because it was so fun for me. And then with luck and a lot of hard work, now we're here. But for me, even creating my first effect was so intimidating, and I was like, oh my gosh, what should I do? But then I let go of all that fear and I just said, oh, I'm just gonna do things that I think are funny or I think are beautiful, and started to create. So
It's
definitely
definitely
wonderful
worth
advice, Jonathan.
definitely worth noting that, like, I mean, my effects aren't phenomenal, right? They're weird, but even out of those weird, janky, strange effects, like most of them I don't publish. I'd say there's like a 10-to-1 ratio of like 9 weird experiments that I've made for every one effect that I think that'll be all right. I'll put that up on the TikTok, right? So there's so many experiments that people will never see probably, but that are just like what I do, just like, oh, I've had an idea, let's go and make something, rather than canceling yourself before you've tried to make the thing. Definitely just try it out before you kind of go, oh, maybe that's not so good in your head, because you never know. It could be good. I mean, the effect that I'm going to talk about today, hopefully, I mean, that, if you think about it, it's a terrible idea. But then I just went and did it, and it turns out to be fairly fun.
I thought it was a phenomenal idea and I thought it was amazing. So now I'm wondering and I'm asking you to publish all of the other 9 that didn't make it, because I would personally love it.
No, definitely not.
But one thing I really love publishing an effect on TikTok versus other platforms is there's an algorithm. So I feel like even though your effects are like totally out of the way, or you think like, oh my gosh, is there someone who's actually going to use this? There is always an audience for it, and they discover the effects and they're like, oh my god, this is funny. And I'm like, I didn't know someone was in this niche. So get on creating and publishing.
100%. I think my most popular effect, for some reason, it's got over 1 billion views, which is insane. But it's
Wow.
literally just like a ball swinging. That's all it is. It's a ball swinging, and your face is on
I
the
know
ball,
what
and the
effect
ball
you're
swings.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And that is a mindless. There's nothing that I was just like, I want to make one of those, those satisfying videos where you see like
Yes,
a
it
thing
will
swinging through a loop
perfectly
or
goes
whatever on,
through the circle and the
on those like yeah, exactly, those things. I wanted to like make that, but I wanted to put your face on it. And so I was like, okay, I'll just make that. And then for some reason, it's gripped this community of people who compare their phones by using it, because I think on some phones, because of the way
yeah.
I set it up, it swings slightly faster or something. And so
Uh-huh.
lots of people are posting videos of it in this niche community. I remember a long time ago, I made an effect which puts a tap, a faucet, I think, in American, a
Yeah.
faucet, a tap on your face. And I was just like, ah, that's funny. And I think it took me like minutes to make, and I put it up there. And I was like, no one's ever going to use that. And then loads of people were using it, and it's because they had a cold. So people who are like feeling they had a runny nose had put a tap on their face to like, to it sort of like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, that's kind of fun. And I think that's something that I've learned then, is that these effects, in the end, the most effective effects and the most popular effects are the ones that allow people to express themselves in some way.
Yes.
And so that's just one of them. But like, you'll see the most popular effects are those that people just feel help communicate the content they're trying to make, or the idea they have, or how they're feeling. And that's kind of fun.
Yeah, so Carol, if you can go to my screen sharing page, I pulled up the satisfying effect that Jonathan created. I think this is phenomenal and so funny. Let me play it for you. It's just your face, but it's perfectly swinging.
For those sort of technical people who are interested, that little shadow, the pink shadow underneath, is literally just another ball underneath that's swinging opposite. It's literally another 3D model. What's the same one reflected? So
Oh.
it's like a fake reflection that's just there to sort of make it look fancy. But that's literally, it's just another one that I've colored pink that does the same thing underneath.
Oh, I was like, how did he do the reflection? Did he just boost up his like reflection settings, or? But that is a very good hack to know.
Yeah, it's quite kind of fun. I think
Yeah,
you've got to
we
be creative like that sometimes with AR effects. You don't always have the most amount of computational power ever, and so finding ways to sort of like save computational processing by like duplicating a thing underneath is quite good. And actually, one of the cool ways, if you've got a symmetrical 3D model, one of the cool ways to optimize is just by, if you're 3D modeling it, cutting off one side of it, and when you're in Effect House, just copying it onto the other side, and that way it only takes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's an amazing hack.
Yeah.
Basically creating an instance of the other self. So you were cutting your polygon in half. So that's a very good hack.
Yeah.
Wait, we have a question from the chat. Kel the Conqueror says, how do you deal with creating effects and then stopping halfway due to lack of skill or loss of motivation?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, lack of skill. I would like to think, and definitely at the beginning, I had very much, and I still do. No one's great no one's perfect at this, right? There's always a way you could have done this faster. When we look at the effect later, I'll show you a few ways I could have done a much better job. But I think that when you don't know how to do something, I mean, in the cases of TikTok and Effect House, the Discord community is wonderful. I believe the engineers, there's like a whole like day when people like come together and answer questions, but generally the community is great. So if you're like struggling, don't know how to bring something to life, then try and think about like what it is you want to do, sketch it if you can, or find some way to explain it, whack it into the Discord chat, and people will definitely help you out. Certainly when people message me on TikTok with like questions that are kind of well asked, I'll certainly answer them and like try and help out. Sometimes even I'll put together a quick project to explain something so that the people can kind of understand that. And then lack of motivation. I don't know what the full answer for that is, but if it's not fun, then then maybe put it down for a second, think about something that's more fun to you. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I've started this, I thought it was really funny, and now I'm kind of bored of it. And I might put it down and I might do something else. In fact, probably one of the reasons that 9 out of 10 of my effects I never publish is because I've gone, no, it's not really that funny anymore, or whatever. But then sometimes I'm like, I've got a renewed inspiration, or I'm like, actually, what happens if I added this to it? And I go back and I bring it back again. So don't always get too tied down with one idea. It's definitely okay to try a bunch of others before you come back to it.
Yeah, that is definitely an awesome advice. One thing that shook my world when I was trying to read more is I thought, in my traditional sense, I thought when you start a book, until you finish that book, you cannot put it down, or like you have to finish this book before starting another book. But then I heard from another book YouTuber who reads a lot of books that she reads like 10 books at the same time. And I was like, how do you do that? And it's exactly like Jonathan said, like you only do it because it's fun and you don't have to like force yourself if it's not fun. But sometimes after a while, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to read that, or I want to create that project. So that is definitely an amazing tip. Thank you, Jonathan.
Anytime.
And regarding the questions, I think this is something that both Jonathan and Projo AR Filters, who came out last week, both mentioned, is about how to ask good questions. So you need our Discord community is super open, and like Jonathan mentioned, there's things like office hours where we come on and answer your questions in live time, so you can guarantee to get your questions answered, or you can put it on our Discord page too, but you have to ask the right questions. You can't just be like, I have this idea and how do I make this? That is very vague, especially sometimes when we don't have the same background context you do. Like, I want to make a Disney effect. How do I make that? It's very vague. But if you can narrow that down to for us, like, I need to create 2 randomizers and I'm stuck at making them not sync. or you provide your project file or screenshots, and it becomes much more easier for us to understand and to try to help you. And Jonathan, I was so moved that you would like create a project file and to really try to help these people. So thank you, Jonathan, and thank you for all of the AR community that's contributing. But definitely, everybody had to start from somewhere. When I first started Effect House, I was so intimidated and scared, but time heals, and as Jonathan mentions, just start creating it, ask questions, and you'll be well versed in Effect House in no time. Okay, now let's final question before we move on to the tutorial part. What is your favorite effect that you've built?
Oh, favorite one. Oh, well, the one I'm going to show you today. There's one. I think sometimes it's the ones that are least popular that I find the most funny. There's one. I don't know, what was it called. I think something about Stan or something. There's some guy that you've got to convince. It's like you're talking to this guy over a fake video call, and you've got to try and you've got to use business speak and convince him to invest in your idea, and he just stands there and like nods and stuff in a fake call. And I found that really funny to make, and I think like 3 people have used it, but that again, that's okay. I enjoyed it, and that made it worth it.
Okay, it is this effect called Stand from Accountant. Carol, if you go to my screen share page, we can see, but you have to convince Stand from Accounts to unlock a budget for your Q3 moving forward in strategy investment.
Yeah, look at his face. That's madness. Yeah. So, yeah, you can see I find it more funny than the average person. Yeah, so you basically just speak to him, and when it detects your mouth moving, it randomly calculates whether or not to make him more or less convinced. And I think if you smile, he's more convinced and stuff. But that's kind of it. I just thought it was funny. I just like this bloke 3D scanned him, and yeah, I just thought it was funny. So there you go.
Yeah, this is absolutely amazing. Now that I work in like a corporate-ish environment, I understand like investments or talking to accountants and unlocking a budget for Q3, and then that's so much more hilarious. I am actually going to try this effect and publish it right now. Begin recording to join call. Okay. Stan, you have to understand that Jonathan is here with us, and he's going to show us this tutorial, and that it's the best. Oh, oh my gosh, what's happening? And we convinced him.
That was very fast. Yeah, you convinced him quickly there. And that, I think that head, the bit where his head goes all the way around was initially a glitch, but I liked it, so I kept it in.
That is perfect. Oh my gosh. But I want to ask you so many questions about that effect, but going back, we'll cover that after the tutorial. But let's go to screen share page. Let's go to Jonathan's screen share page. Perfect.
Amazing stuff. All right, so this is an empty canvas because I was going to kind of go through how we might create an effect like the one, but I think maybe it's worth showing it in action. So I'll just play the video of kind of what I'm going to explain, I guess, in this project and what it is, because it's a little bit weird. And then we can talk about how we might sort of make something like this and how we might bring it to life. So first of all, let's play it. I'm going to mute it. Oh, it's already muted. That's good. And so what we've got here is the supermarket call. So we're going to tap to start. And we've got to move our product around to scan it, or select the product on the screen to select it. So it's just like a supermarket when you're shopping, like this. Oh, there's a potato. That's potatoes. I'm going to click. And this is a product. I've got to spin it around. Oh, there's a QR code. So oh, they're brilliant, etc. Right. So I keep playing until you get it. I keep playing until I run out of time. I'll explain that in a second. So basically, the idea is. We want to make a game that, and this is kind of where I started, a game where you scan items like at a supermarket. So self-service checkout. There we go, service checkout. And now what are the main 2 things that when you're at a self-service checkout. Now, I don't know if everybody on this call has used self-service checkout. I presume at this stage they have. It's a stressful scenario where there's a queue of people behind you and you've got to scan some products. And the first challenge
Especially
is that
worse when your mom says, "Oh, just stay in the line. I'm just gonna go get this one thing," and then she's
that's the
done
worst.
checking out, and then my mom isn't still back, and the cashier's like, "How would you like to pay?" That is so
Yeah. All right. So you got that. You got the people behind you. You got this. So you're trying to move the product around to face it at the scanning thing, and great. So that's challenge one. And the other challenge is if you've got fruit and veg, you've got to press it on the screen. Okay. So we want to bring those two parts in. So let's say we start the game, and that's when, let's say, the user taps. Okay. Cool. Now, when that happens, what we want to do is send in an item, and it could be one of two items, right? So either we send in a product that needs like scanning, so you turn it around, so that's going to be like I'll use a little turny thing, or we're going to send in the fruit or veg. So fruit and veg. Okay, cool. So we got that. Now, if you scan the fruit and veg, so you scanned it, let's say scan exclamation mark. Can we make this a little bit smaller? Because I realize, oh, that's way too small. Let's make it fit on the screen. Yeah. So if we scan, then what do we want to do? Oh, well, we want to send in the next product. So up we go. Now, if we just keep sending in a product after we've scanned, that's really boring. So we want to make it harder. And so we might say, okay, if they manage to scan within 5 seconds, let's say within 5 seconds, then we can send another one. But if they fail and they don't scan, then we've got to end game. And what we might do is give them, I don't know, like a receipt. And so they can see how many products they scanned and how long it took them. But even this is really boring, because if you get good at scanning, you can just keep scanning over and over within the 5 seconds. In fact, I saw people early on in the first version of the game were released, they're just keeping scanning. They're really good at it. In fact, I think one of the people with the most views using the effect is a real life cashier, I think in Sainsbury's, which is a supermarket chain in the UK and maybe other places. But she was saying she was very fast, incredibly good. They've got a real intuition knowing where barcodes are. Anyway, so what we want to do instead of it just being 5 seconds, we want it throughout the game. We want it to get less and less time per product. And I'll explain kind of how we did that in a bit. But essentially what we'll do is when the user starts a game, we'll start a timer. And let's say it's a 50-second timer, 50 seconds. And we'll say that for all the time throughout the 50 seconds, it'll get less and less and less and less and less time. So when there's, for example, at the beginning, you've got 5 seconds. It's really easy to scan. You can do that all day. You can do it with your eyes closed. But at 50 seconds, you've been playing this for 50 seconds now. At that stage, you've got like 1 second to scan the product. And inevitably, that's impossible. And so I don't know what the word I'd give this is, but let's call it the impossible point. And the impossible point, I like to put it at like a minute in, so that it's enough time for someone to record a good TikTok before it gets really challenging. And those people who really, really care enough, they'll record a longer one just so that they can try and beat the game. And that's the win. I know someone really cares when they go over that minute. Sweet. So that's kind of that. Let's talk about the game. And by the way, if anyone has any questions in the chat, do feel free to interrupt, because I know sometimes I get overexcited and go way too fast. That's cool. Right, sweet. So,
Jonathan, do you think you can click on the button in the bottom that says hide video ninja share? Perfect. Thank you.
Look at that. Brilliant. Ever so sorry about that. Right. Okay, so let's have a look now at our our scene. So let's start at the very beginning, which is a very good place to start. Screen tap. That's what happens right at the beginning. And when someone taps the screen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a variable. And we can set variables that we can use later on. And I'm going to say the game's now in play. That's great. And I'll use that later. So I can say if the game's in play, do something else, right? Now, once that's happened, what we can do is set that timer. Now, this is what I like to think of as like the global game timer. And this is playing throughout all of the time that you're playing. And so you can see I've set it to basically infinite duration. It's going to play as soon as you've started playing, and it'll just tell me how long you've been playing. And that's really useful for the game speed progress variable. And this is what I'm doing here is what I explained with it getting harder as you get to the 50 seconds. So when someone's been playing for 50 seconds, this game speed progress will be 1. Now, a really nice thing that us developers really like doing is making sure that a lot of the numbers we use are somewhere between 0 and 1. So we normalize them. And then later on, we can use that 0 and 1 for other stuff, which I'll explain in a minute, but you don't have to worry about too much. Okay, so we started playing. That's really cool. And so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to choose one of 2 things. Let's see now. That's good. And we go. Right, so this thing says that we've started playing. Now, I generate a random number, okay, between 0 and 1. And if that random number here is greater than 0.5, so that's 50% of the time, half and half, then what I'll do is one of these 2 things. I'm going to execute one of these 2 things. And you remember earlier the 2 key things we do at a self-service checkout. One is we spin the product to scan it, or we press the screen. So it'll be one of those 2 things. Either it sends a product or it sends some fruit. Brilliant. Okay, and this is how I do those things. You don't need to worry about all of this stuff. Once you get to know Effect House, you'll work it out in no time. It looks way more scary than it is. So every time someone sends, every time a product's chosen, so one of the 50% options, I do a thing called transit by time. This is one of my favorite nodes. And what it does is it's basically like an animation. It plays an animation and it gives me whatever I've put here to this over whatever I've put here. So here I've put 0.3, so 0.3 of a second. I guess 300 milliseconds, something like that. Yeah. And then for every frame during that little animation, what I do is I animate the product. So we can see that here. I'm going to do this right now. Hopefully it brings in a product. Let me play it. And I'm going to press tap. It'll choose one of the 50-50. And it did. It just sent a product. So you see there, that little animation happened. And then you saw that when I scanned it, another animation happened. And that animation is just down here. So when it scans successfully, that same product then animates out on the other side with another transit by time node, which is the best node ever. You'll love that node. I love that node. Everyone loves that node. And I've done what I think is quite a clever solution for knowing when the label is pointing in the right direction. So what I've actually done is, and I'll show you the product. This is, let's see if I'm going the right way. So this is our product. And you can say it's cycling through all of the different package designs, which I'll talk about in a minute, that I made. And actually what's attached to this product is the test cube. Where's the test cube? There it is, up here. So the test cube's up here, and the test cube is whichever way the barcode of the product's facing. And what I can do then is that when this product is being turned around by the user who's swiping to try and move it towards the checkout to be scanned, this test cube will move around the product, always facing where the barcode is. And if it goes near the machine, then I trigger a scan. So it says, oh, I've been scanned. And so that's what this is. I get the transform, so the position of our little test cube, which is always facing the barcode to be scanned. And I see, is it inside the space that the machine is? Is it facing the scanner? And then if it is, and the game is playing, and that's why I set it earlier, so we don't like randomly have a product facing it when you're not playing and it scans for some reason, then I say, great, send in another product. And so it sends a little message up here and sets the whole thing off again. And it's like, do you know what I want to do now? We're going to send in another product, and it'll be one more, a 50-50 between the 2. Now, this is getting all really boring. So what I'm going to do now is talk about how I design the products, which is way more fun. So first of all, I went into Blender. Let's hide our machine for now. I'll come to that in a bit. and I made this product. All of the products are just a box, right? And I looked at all of the sides. If I select the sides here, and maybe I'm just going to remove this product. There we go. And if I select up here, you can kind of see all the different faces on here that I'm selecting. So I made sure, okay, I'll remember where those are. And then I started a template in Keynote, but you could use PowerPoint or you could use Google Slides. You could use any of them. I just quite like Keynote because why not? And I made this template that I know would fit perfectly and wrap around that box that I made in 3D. Using UV mapping, and I just made a bunch of products that I found funny. So for example, Uncle Bob's carrot cake, now with extra 50% cement, or I used some AI to generate some seagulls with lightsabers, which I also thought was quite funny. And so I made my first seagull with a lightsaber, minutes of fun. AI toaster, because of course everyone needs one of those. Nuts, 100% flavor, ingredients, nuts, all this sort of stuff. I just thought it was very funny. I made all of these products. Again, these are all just shapes that I've imported. I think this one's literally from the shapes in Keynote. So if I put in like, was it orange or was it a lemon? There it is. Look at that. There's the lemon. It's just one of those. And I just made a ton of those, whacked them all in there, and just made a bunch of fake products. In fact, I think all of the images here are generated by AI. Like this dragon having cereal, for example, because it's Costco basic dragon feed, which I thought was entertaining. So I just made a bunch of these and I saved them in Keynote, in PowerPoint, I think even in Google Slides. You can export to images. This is one of the best things ever. You can select what format you want, PNGs. If you've got transparent backgrounds, which you might, you can also enable that. I think I just went with a bunch of JPEGs, yeah, a bunch of those, exported them into a folder. And then I used the best option ever in Effect House. I went to import texture sequence, and texture sequence is amazing. It imports all of your images into a sequence. And then what you can do is, let me try and find where I select which product to choose. Here it is. All of my products are in, it's almost like a video of lots of frames. And what I do is every time a new product's needed, I say, okay, get how many products there are. And it's here's the products, here's the number of products. Randomize between the first one and the number of them. I think there's 13 here. So any one product between 0 and 13. Set it, save it as my random product choice. And then I literally just use an animated texture player and I say, right, choose this image from all of the textures. And that's all. Then that product comes on. And every time it's fun because you get a different product because this randomizer. And then what I can do is set, where are we now? What I can do is then say, okay, this is where our cube is, the test cube that knows where the barcode is facing, and it'll scan. Then I was like, okay, but how do we make this fun? What makes an effect engaging? And it's almost always good to have the person playing the effect in the effect. Because if you don't, it's kind of boring. Anybody could have made that video and there's not that much interactivity. And also the best effects are those where people can add their own flavor to it. Some of my favorite videos that have come from this effect are people who are like, I'm a cashier in real life. This is so relaxing. Oh my God, this is great. I feel so chilled. I have autism and this is just making me relax. That's the best. I love that. And so we want to enable people to have some fun. So I was like, okay, what's on a self-service checkout? Well, we've got a big screen. So I'm going to put the user on the screen and I'll show you the 3D modeling in a minute. But basically, I set a material, and I'll show you that in a minute. I set a material for the screen on the 3D model and I attach the person to it. So I'll show you where that is. So if we zoom in to our self-service checkout, and it's up here somewhere, here's the machine. And then one of the materials here is the screen. So I can go down to our screen material and it's somewhere in here. There it is. And I set the texture on the screen to be the camera texture. Simple as that. And so it just takes the camera texture and whacks it onto the screen. Okay, that's cool. And now every time that someone plays and new effects on, you can see I've got this little green bar up here that tells you how much time you've got left. Let's see that playing. and that goes down. You can kind of see there for every time how long you've got left, and that's dynamic. As the game goes, like we kind of went through earlier, you get less and less time. So how did I make that? I can't remember, but we're going to find out where it is. Here it is. Look at that. So every time a new product's sent in, I get the game speed progress. That's what I told you about earlier, that goes from the 0 to 50 seconds. When we're at 50 seconds, it equals 1. And so I lerp that. Lerp is, I think, my favorite node. It takes a normalized value, that's a value between 0 and 1, and turns it into a value where I can replace what 0 would be, and I can replace what 1 would be, and everything in between. And in this case, when we're 0, for example, we're right at the beginning of the effect, you have 6 seconds to scan. 6 seconds, easy, that's so easy. But when you're at 50 seconds of the effect, you only have 1 second to scan. Oh, that's difficult. And then what I do is I pump that into a timer. So when you get your new product, it goes into start. It plays the timer for as long as you have to scan the product, which is here, we looked at. So for example, at this point, we're quite early on in the game. So we've got a nice, easy 5 seconds to scan. Super simple. And then what I can do is I can say over that, whatever it is, 5 seconds now, animate the scale of our progress bar. That's that little green thing up here. Let's zoom into it in our 3D scene. It's not there. Is that because it's anyway, you can see it in the main preview. And what it'll do is over time it'll animate from being a big scale to being 0 on the scale. So you can see X here becomes 0 because it gets really small like that. Amazing. And then also what I do is to make it even more frustrating and challenging, I turn it red as it gets right to the end. Hopefully that shows as well. So let's play a little bit. It should go orange. Let's play and watch that green bar. It should at some point turn red. Or it should turn red. Who knows? That's one of the bugs that I might fix next time. Hey, and we could probably find it. Let's find it. Progress. Here it is. Oh, I think I've seen what I've done. We can fix that another time. But basically, this green color here in the main published version of the effect I haven't meddled around with, this green will turn from green to red, just like it gets smaller over time. And then there's also the score. I'm not going to go too deep into the score because there's a really cool project from the Microjam series that I'm sure you can be pointed in the direction of, that shows you how to make scores and stuff like that using textures, which is really cool. And there's also now a new node out, probably, but also component out for text. So right now, this is using a technique that I'd probably not use anymore because, well, actually I might for text for customized fonts. It's really good for that. Like I really wanted to go for this kind of supermarket style rounded font. But there's a bunch of cool new techniques out there. So I recommend checking out the Microjams for scoring, which is on the Effect House documentation page. Super cool. And then at the end of the game, so let's end the game. I'll deliberately try and be very bad at it, although I already am pretty bad. Then what I want to do is bring up a receipt with your score and how long it took you. And what I found is when you end with a score, like a final score that someone gets, see, I got a 0 on my score. People want to compete. So people go in the comments, oh, I got 40 items in X many seconds. I'm so happy and brilliant. Good for you. And so what I've done here, I don't know if you can see, let me try and make my preview a bit bigger. Oh, that's good, isn't it? I've made the score big in a new font that I've made. Again, I actually used the same node from that Microjam for score text. And I said, you scanned X many items in, and it says 5 seconds, because it took that amount from the timer we set up at the beginning, and then it says what your score is. I'm going to pause here now, because a game can get overwhelming, and I'm going to go into how we made the actual self-service checkout. Now, most of my effects I come up with because I'm like, that would be funny, and it's in the actual real thing. And in this case, I was out shopping, and I saw this self-service checkout here, which is in a leading supermarket chain in the UK. There are many others available, and I'm sure for those in the UK, they'll know which one this is. But I was like, hey, this would be really fun. Take a picture of that, and we can make our version of it. And the final thing looks like this, which is strikingly similar. Why is it strikingly similar? Because I've reprojected a bunch of textures onto it, and I'll kind of show you what my workflow looked like actually when I'm doing this. So what I'll start by doing, and what we can do is we can move this off to the side. Let's do that. Woohoo! There, oh, where's it gone? There he is. Perfect. So what I'll say is, basically, the core shape is like a cube. It's a cube. We can say it's a cube. So Blender, by the way, is a free open source 3D suite. It's my favorite 3D modeling software, not just because it's free. I mean, I've been using this thing from school when I installed it on a bunch of our school computers because I wanted to try it out, and it's the best. It's what an incredible bit of software for us to get for free across like everywhere. I've used it on Linux. It works on Mac, even in Apple Silicon Macs, on Windows. It works everywhere. It's the most powerful thing ever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a cube. So I'm going to go to add, I'm going to create a cube. And what we've got here is our cube. Let's create a material for the cube. So we want something on it. So I'm going to go into our materials. And again, you can learn Blender. There's a bunch of phenomenal tutorials on YouTube for how to use Blender. And it's such a fun thing to do. And when you've learned to use Blender, and you can learn in hours, honestly, you can make your own, you can just create your own stuff and then bring it into your AR effects. It's so worth learning. So let's call this the checkout, supermarket self-service checkout. Cool. There's a really cool thing called UV mapping. This is maybe a complex thing to talk about today, but it's the idea that if you imagine your 3D cube, for example here, how might that look if you were to unwrap it completely? I'm going to try and remove this. There it is. So that's the cube unwrapped. So you can see when I select a face on the cube, I'm going to hide the machine. When we select a face on the cube, you can see it being reflected here. And this is like if someone unwrapped all of the skin off the cube and then whacked it into a 2D plane. And then what we can do there is bring in an image. So let's, for example, take that image I just showed you of the self-service checkout. Let's find that. So I'm going to say I want image, and I'm going to use the image from earlier. This doesn't look quite right? Because there's loads of stuff. You can see that it's just everywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, actually, I'm going to bring our self-service checkout back. This cube here that I've got selected should be around the top of the self-service checkout. So like here, so you can see if I zoom in, I can kind of move this point over here. I can move this point over here. I can move this point over here. And I can move this point over here. Really simple, just like dragging stuff. And already you can kind of see, it's not perfect, but I've kind of already created the top of my machine in literally seconds. And then we might create the front. So let's select this side, and this is all just down here. So I'm going to do like that. I'm going to move those over there, move these bottom ones up here. That's not looking perfect either. But what we can do then is we can work it out. We can say, is it like that? Is it like that? Yeah, that kind of point works like that. And you can see it's very iterative. And I'll just create our things. That's looking a lot better, isn't it? And I can move those up there. I won't bore you with too much of this, but you can see that just by combining a few shapes, and I might say that's a bit smaller, we've already made part of the machine. And then it's as simple as, and again, you can learn Blender on YouTube, but then it's as simple as getting a bunch of those shapes and making them a little bit bigger. So then we want to get the screen. And so we use one of the tools like the extrude tool, and it goes up like that. And we might say, well, we've got this thing here and let's put the screen on it. Okay, great. Let's do that. And not perfect, but already you can see we've made a lot of the self-service checkout. And then over time, you get less and less blocky. You add bits, you bring bits out, like you can see with my machine here, the final design. Ooh, where is it now? There it is. I did exactly what I just showed you, but I made an extra little square for the display up here. And I made another little extrude for the card reader thing. And then we have it. That's it. Okay, I'm great. I'm happy with that. And then what I do, and you don't need to know the details again, but I make a few materials. So for example, I selected the screen here like that, and I made it its own little material called screen. I selected the bits that are just plasticky on the machine, and I made them a material called plastic. And then there's the image bit. So that's just the rest of the machine that's based on the image that I took right here. Cool. So we've then got that machine. Then I exported it, and there's a bunch of great export settings, but you can go export here, and you can choose FBX, which is good supported mode for Effect House. And you literally take that file and you just dump it inside of Effect House, just like that. And it works. You've got your self-service checkout machine. And I did the same for the product. And then we have our whole effect, basically. That's kind of how it all works. And I don't know, is there anything else worth checking out here? Is there anything I've missed that's definitely worth checking out? I don't know, but you've got most of the logic. I guess we could talk a bit about how I made the fruit that you can tap work. So if you don't get a product, but instead you get like a vegetable, then it's very similar to the product. We choose a random vegetable that we've gotten, and then we say, okay, so we've chosen this random vegetable. Let's say we've chosen, what is there now? Garlic. We've chosen garlic. Then on the screen, we bring up these options. Can you see them here? And we zoom them in. You can see me doing that right here. So I've just zoomed in to the vegetables through this transit by time node. Again, brilliant node that allows you to animate. And then when you tap these vegetables, it says, yes, I've tapped the right vegetable, and you can move on. And that's just the same as scanning. So once again, if you've tapped the right vegetable and it goes out, then it goes back to the beginning and it says, can you choose between randomly sending in a product or a new vegetable? And the whole thing goes over and over and over until someone runs out of time and can no longer scan. I think that's basically kind of everything in sort of a summary overview. Is there anything else that's worth going over? Any questions?
Oh my God, Jonathan, that was such an amazing review of the project. Many people are loving how in detail you went and how you covered the comprehensive process. Rob is saying they especially love the storytelling and the behind the scenes on how you got the creation. And I think a lot of people were also wowed at how you can just project a texture into a UV map and then create a really complicated looking like 3D scan based from that. So that is an awesome tip. Thank you for sharing. I think you've sparked a conversation about what a lerp node does and what a transit by time node does, and people are discussing in the chat like which node to use for which scenario, because I know Baikasai came out a couple days ago and also explained a different way you can make a progress bar. And it's by using the draw mode. So people have different strategies and it can be used in different settings. So I think I love how all of the projects by people have different quirks. Like even though it's the same progress bar, it might look identical. They're made using different techniques. And I love hearing about this. I don't think I've seen anyone use the lerp node before. So that was absolutely mind blowing to me. And
one of the best, for those who get into this, alert mode can be so powerful if you have a single transit by time. Let me see if I've got an example somewhere here. Do I? Where you have, let's say, we can make it live. Or if we have like a transit by time node, we whack that in there, and we say that we want it to go from 0 to 1. Our output 0 to 1 over, let's say, 2 seconds. Then we can take that and we can lerp it like that. And let's say we wanted to make, we wanted to move a ball over that 3 seconds. And let's move that into our step. If we wanted to move a ball from, I don't know, -1x, so that's over here. And then we wanted to move it to 1x, and that's over here. But at the same time, we're like, we also want to change the color of the ball, let's say. And so we go into lerp once again, but this time instead of a vector 3, which is the coordinates of where our ball is, I'm now going to say I'm going to change the color of the ball. So I want to change it from, say, red to blue. And what it'll do is it'll take the 0 to 1 output from our transit by time and convert that to both where the ball should be and also what color we want the ball to be. all in just one transit by time. And the really great thing is, and I've actually got a few effects that I've made recently that a client effects. I probably shouldn't talk about them, but yeah, I've created many different things I want to do at the same time. It's a platformer game, maybe, and there are lots and lots of platforms that I want to move at the same time. And so what I do is I change all of the positions all at the same time using just one transit by time. Sometimes you'll see people have multiple transit by times, so they'll do this, and they'll have another transit by time, and they'll put that in there. And now you've got this extra node that's really big. And then you've got to control 2 transit by times. And what if you want to stop that transit by time at some time? Now you've got 2 transit by times to stop the animation for. So it's much better, in my opinion, to have 1 transit by time to control all of your animations and then lerp them, convert them to all of the other things that you want to do.
That's a phenomenal tip. I was also working with a lot of bulky transit by time, but now I know this hack, so I can control everything using the lerp node.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, okay. There's a question that I ask all of our speakers, and we have to choose node of the day. So I know you talked a lot about the lerp node. Would that be the node of the day?
Oh, definitely. I love the node node. Let me just have a quick look to check that I'm not missing something. Oh, they're all so good. Time is one of my, I mean, this is just because of OG Effect House. I love time because you can get how long has passed since the beginning of the effect. And that's so great for like moving stuff. One of the easiest to do effects is a simple sine, where you take the time in seconds and it'll convert it into a wave. So it'll just go from -1 to 1 to -1 to 1 over time. And just like that, you can make, let's say, a ball go up and down, just like that, with only these nodes. So I love the time node, but I think lerp takes it for the win for me.
Definitely. I personally have been loving combining the get time node with our new 2D text feature. So I would, instead of, before we had a microjam project that allows you to show how much time has passed, but now it's so easy. You can just plug the get time node into the text display and it'll just display it. It is fantastic.
So fast, just like that. All of the innovations. I love that effect. It's like a new amazing feature every time. And actually, one of the things with making projects like this, I made this a little while ago. There's so many things I've changed already. Like I'd be using the text feature now wherever I had the previous text before, which was more static. It was like PNGs and stuff. Now I'd be using proper text. And a bunch of stuff. Even the progress bar we talked about, there are new ways going on in my head that we could have done that better than just scaling an actual plane. We could have we could have made our own custom material now that we have the new custom material tool, which is so cool. And we could have simply animated a green bar and it would have been so much more performant than what I did.
Yeah, definitely. One of the newest features, I was just talking to Jonathan about this, is it allows you to save your subgraphs. So I know in before lives, we said, hey, there's an easy way you can reuse subgraphs. If you export it, you can re-import it to a different project. But with the 3.0 update, you can save them as your custom node. So instead of having to export and import all the time, when you save it once in one project file, you can reuse that in all of the different projects. So that has been a feature that I've been absolutely loving. And since I know that you guys are very into visual scripting and all of the game effects as well, I hope this knowledge is very useful to you.
Poignant, so useful.
Joe is saying, still loving Material Graph. I think a lot of people have been very excited about Material Editor. And I saw last week with Projo AR filters, I also asked him, like, hey, is there something that you would like to learn more, try out more? And then he said something to do with Material Editor / Material Graph. So I am very excited to show more about Material Editor effects as well. Oh, speaking of, this Wednesday, we're going to have a live with our interactive engineer, Melody, and she's going to come out and show how she created the rainbow shadow material editor template. So be sure to tune in on that as well if you want to learn more material editor. Okay.
Cool.
Going back to Jonathan, I want to ask you one more question. Is there someone you admire in the Effect House community?
Yes, so many people. I don't know where to start. One of my favorite people ever is amazing person called Noland.
Yeah.
Something, and they're brilliant. They're the kindest, nicest person ever, and like always happy to help when you're like, oh, I'm so stuck, and also incredible with like shaders and stuff. So they're brilliant. Joe at Pro Joe Art Filters, AR Filters, I think.
Yeah.
Is a phenomenal creator. And then also I've got to give a shout out in this kind of niche. Well, I don't know how niche it is anymore. In the TikTok gamer making community, games, there's a brilliant account called Journey Home at King of TikTok Games, and head of TikTok Games plays everyone's effects and celebrates them, and celebrates the creators. So doesn't get enough of a shout out, and they're just he's great. So yeah, those are kind of three people that come to mind. But I mean, like, I'm always inspired when I go on the Discord and see all the effects people have made, or the effects I get tagged in that people have made, or just the ones that come up in my feed. I guess this is what I do. So like half my feed is people making TikTok games, and they're all inspirational. They're all amazing.
I think if you are a TikTok game effect creator, or if you ever published a game effect, you would know this person, Journey Home, because they are the king of TikTok games and they try all of the gaming effects, and I absolutely love them. Sometimes he finds this like very niche effects, and I'm like, how did he even find this? This has like 2 videos, but as we said earlier, TikTok has a way of finding its audience, and he will find you. But in a good way. I now realize I said it in like a taken way. But no, he will find you and use it, and he'll absolutely crush
it. When he finds you, he'll play your TikTok game.
Yeah, one of the creators that I've been really admiring recently is another person named Joe Lafioska. I hope I'm saying that correctly. But his TikTok handle is Sri _SYA. I'm so sorry, Joe. I don't know how to but they have been using a really novel features of like combining AI to take a snapshot and creating a tarot card, or building insane games like Minesweeper or Dungeons and Dragons like inside of Effect House. And that was back when we didn't have as many features. So I have no idea how they did it, and it is so impressive. I also have to give out shout out to Kasai, who was just here, a phenomenal creator. So thank you so much, guys, for being an amazing part of the community. Okay, because you are a professional creator and you have an amazing website, if you haven't been to his website, go to @JonothanHunt and it will be linked over there. If you click it, you can see his website. It's beautiful. How do you set up your portfolio? Do you have any advice for people who are trying to professionally pursue AR? And he's put it on his screen share right now, so we'll go to his page. But I love it because it's reactive, because I think as you scroll down, it changes a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Can we go to the screen share page?
That's good. Okay. Yeah. So I think that I don't know. It's really nice when someone brings their and I'll show you kind of scrolling, so you can kind of see it.
Ooh, so smooth.
Ooh. And actually, this all of this is basically like shaders, which are like code. It's like Effect House's new shader graph, a material graph, but I've had to code it. So I'm very happy that the shader graph's here, because otherwise I have to code it. But this is basically all code that sort of creates all of the kind of like stuff in the background. I've used noise and I've kind of interpolated a bit around. What I really like is two key things from a portfolio site. One is you can very, very quickly see what someone's about and what they make. So I like showing the things that I'm most proud of or excited about at this moment. So TikTok Effect House, very excited about that. This is a weird project I've got for the Raspberry Pi and some of the things, my accessibility things, some other experiments, articles and stuff, just my latest stuff. And then I like something that brings what you do to life and what you care about, what you enjoy. And in this case, for me, it's creating 3D stuff that's somewhat immersive and fun. And so I tried creating this experience here. For anyone interested, you've got to check out React 3 Fiber, which is React 3 Fiber, which is a really great way to bring 3JS to life, which is 3JS is like the 3D library for the web. And you can fuse it with React and create the most amazing stuff. And this is just one thing that I used React 3 Fiber for. But yeah, so I think this is a cool way when someone lands on the page, I'd hope that they'd quite quickly get an idea of who I am, what I care about and stuff like that.
Yeah, I also know that there's a website called Spline. It's also a free website, but that allows you, even if you don't know coding at all, you can go to this website and it will be very reactive. It allows you to, like visual scripting, kind of do things like follow the mouse or do something when you scroll. So it is super, super useful. Check that out if you want a reactive, fun website like Jonathan's.
Yep,
And
definitely.
one tip of advice, make sure you put your contact information on the website. Sometimes I go to somebody's website because I want to check out their portfolio and contact them, maybe commission them an effect, but I can't find their contact information. It is very, very crucial. That's how your brands or other people who are interested is going to reach out to you. So make sure to have a website.
I can even add to that. I used to have just icons for desktop. I think it just said email me. But the challenge with that is that people don't immediately see it. So I went even more obvious and added my actual email and text, which doesn't look as pretty, but it definitely is quite helpful because then people kind of get in touch. And yeah, a lot of them do, but you can, it's great. It's lovely. So definitely worth checking out, doing like proper text and your email and stuff on your portfolios for sure.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Maybe we'll have to host another section that's specifically about how to present yourself, how to put it together a portfolio, how to make a website, how to have business cards. So when you're going to conferences, you can hand out your business cards. So stuff like that. We'll put together all of the condensed knowledge in one informative session. But for today, I have a couple more questions to you. What Can you give us a sneak peek of your next effect?
Yeah, yeah. Is it in here? Yeah, I think it is. I found this bin the other day, which is in a
trash can?
oh right, yeah, trash can for the American trash can.
The
Um,
bin, yes.
the bin, yeah. We call it the bin, mate. So I found this bin and I was like, that could be an effect. We could put people in the bin. So I 3D scanned the bin, and I think I've got the bin. There it is. So you don't need to save that one. Let's open our bin, and also can we close this tab? I think we can in a minute.
So when I'm feeling very sad, I can see myself in the bin.
Yeah, exactly that. So this is the bin, but in 3D. I don't know if you can see that very well.
Gosh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's a great app called Polyscan. I think it's on iPhone and Android. There's a little bit of a knack to get using it, but basically you just film carefully walking around whatever it is you want to 3D scan. I just whack it into Blender, do a bit of optimization magic on it, and reduce the polygon count. And then you have this bin. And then what I've done is I've made it so you can be in the bin. So let me switch to my camera. Hopefully it doesn't interrupt your guys' viewing. Can you see me in the bin?
Yes.
So now I'm in the
Oh
bin.
no, you're in the bin.
I'm in
It
the
kind of
bin.
reminds me like a little raccoon as well when you go camping. When
And it's
we-
a 3D bin, so I can also like it can turn the bin. Now I've turned it around wrong, but let's see now. Yeah, we turn the bin around like that.
so funny.
And so
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
all sorts of stuff can happen. I've also made it. This is an AI generated backdrop for the bin, so you can also go around the park. I think I did that in what's it called, Skybox Lab. You can make your own 360 like skyboxes, they're called,
Mhm.
using AI. You can just say, oh, I put London Park, and it just gave me loads of Big Bens in a park. So I had to remove Big Ben. But
That's
other than that, yeah. And so this is a sneak peek of what will be the next effect, I think.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
not one of the 9 that I go, I'm bored
I
of that one.
know your effects always have like super funny humor or some Easter eggs, and now I'm kind of wishing that there was like a little raccoon that pops up. But
Oh,
I
I
am
like it. Oh no,
looking
a
forward
raccoon.
to your
I'm down for raccoon. Hang on, let me add a comment. That's another great little thing I like to do in Effect House. What you do is I'm going to say comment around. Comment around, by the way, comment boxes are so good because they help you
Mm.
remember what bits of your nodes do. The equivalent of commenting in code if you're a developer. And what I sometimes do is I'll just have a standalone box that I just put comments in. So for example,
Ooh.
here I'm going to put add a, I don't know how to spell raccoon, I'm dyslexic. Is it with 1 C or 2 C's? Doesn't matter.
Juicies.
2 C's. Brilliant. Right, add a raccoon is now on the to-do list.
That's absolutely amazing, and this is a major tip because I didn't know like how I should write things so I don't forget. But having a empty comment box and just like a designated area is such a smart hack.
Yeah, maybe a feature request would be sticky notes, but maybe I'm being too wistful.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people might love that. In our forum, there's an area for feature requests. So if you guys have any feature requests, you can definitely go put it in our forum chat as well. But it's so funny. Joe says it's rubbish in the comments, and I
See what I did there? Yeah.
uh-huh. I think thank you for giving us a sneak peek of your next effect. Um,
Anytime.
final questions. If you had to describe yourself in 3 words, what would it be?
Uh, persistent, persistent, persistent.
Ooh, that's a lot of
Ooh,
persistence.
that's a
I
lot of persistence. You just got to keep going, giving it go.
I think that's a great quality. Even though you don't get it the first time, as Jonathan mentioned earlier, just try again, do the things that you love, and you'll gradually be amazing.
Yeah.
Whew, okay. Thank you, Jonathan, for that amazing session. I felt like I learned so much, and a lot of people in the comment section was just saying how they love seeing how passionate you are and how happy you look explaining your projects. And I also agreed. I could just tell that you're so happy, and all the details that you added, like the AI generated funny boxes like Costco Dragon Meals, there's the cement. I feel like you couldn't have done it if you like really enjoyed this project. I loved it. Everybody's saying great presentation, Jonathan, giving a little claps emoji. Every saying DevSep says well done. So thank you, Jonathan, for being on the live. Um,
Thank you for having me. It's really, really fun. And I should say that if anybody, I mean, like if you want to, obviously this is a huge project and these are big things, especially if you've never used Effect House before, but definitely check out all of the templates in Effect House, download it, check out the templates, see how they work, chat to people on the Discord server. Everyone's so nice and lovely, and you can see how other people are making things. And basically everyone wants to talk about the stuff that they do. Everyone's so happy and proud of the stuff. So go and ask them about it. And you can learn that way. Certainly the way I've done it is just going, how did you make that? What did you do to do that? That's amazing. I couldn't even imagine how you did that. And it
this
just gets
is
you a long way.
this is incredible, and now talking to you and seeing how much passion you have in this project, I kind of want to do like a show and tell where everybody comes out and they get 5 minutes and then they talk about their projects. I think that would be lovely. Thank you for the content inspiration. But okay, I think this is the end of our session today, but it was absolutely lovely seeing all of you. The chat was popping throughout the entire stream today, which was lovely. A lot of people joining from the TikTok live side as well. And as always, thank you, Jonathan. Have a great day, guys. Any final words?
Thanks. That was good.
It's rubbish. Okay, bye bye. Have a nice day.
See ya.
Bye. Perfect. Oh my
Wait,
god.